Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first session of the day, day 2 of the WIS Career Fair. Really excited to be here with this wonderful panel. Typically, when we talk about coach mentor training, it's often like, oh, PowerPoint, right, with a Q&A. And so really excited that today we get to do it by exploring the ways in which coaches, the group here, has utilized the training in the field, right, and for their own professional development and work. And then want to give you all a chance to ask some questions as you learn a little bit more about what the training is, to see if it's a good fit for you and your community or your network of coaches and staff. So it's really nice to meet you all. I'm Caitlin Okamoto, she, her pronouns, director of the U.S.Soccer Foundation's Coach Mentor Training Program. The U.S.Soccer Foundation, we're based out of Washington, D.C., and we were born out of the 1994 World Cup, like Men's World Cup, as a legacy foundation. And our charge over the last 25 plus years has been to really grow the game, particularly in underserved communities across the U.S. We do that through building safe places to play, like this mini pitch behind me, and also through partnering with local organizations on programming. And so that extends from soccer-specific programming in school and out of school, as well as this program we're talking about today, which is really specifically to coach training. So what I'm going to do is invite everyone else here on the panel just to introduce themselves, get maybe a brief background on yourself, what you do now, or your coaching or playing experience, wherever you choose to go. And we're going to actually co-moderate together here. So once I pass it over, then I think Cassie will be up next. So why don't we go with Sarah? Sarah, are you with us? Because I know we're all newbies to Remo. So if you're new to Remo, this is phenomenal, but we're learning our way of the world.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a late dramatic entrance. So here I am.
Phenomenal.
You did it. Yeah, I'm Sarah Pickens, Vice President of Programs at the U.S.Soccer Foundation, and colleagues of the wonderful Cassidy and Caitlin. And Kaylee, wanted to tell you that a long time ago, I was a volunteer grad assistant for GW. So we can talk about that later. But born and bred soccer player, lover, played from 6 years old on, played at Duke, had a cup of coffee, as my kind boss likes to say, with Carolina Courage, played in Iceland, and coached any age group from 3 to 20 plus, and all genders. So have kind of stuck in at different areas. I guess the highest level I've coached is D3 women's or elite club, but I've done a variety of other coaching as well. And I'm just going to popcorn over to Kaylee.
Good morning. What a connection, Sarah. I love that. And I have to say that the coaching path is aspirational to me, because I similarly am on my somewhat of a yo-yo of my coaching journey. I'm Kaylee Sullivan, everyone. She, her pronouns, and I'm currently coaching at the George Washington University as an assistant coach. I am about 10 days into this role, most recently at University of Miami, and prior to that, 2 other collegiate stops. So I've been collegiate coaching paired with youth coaching for about the last 6 years, and prior to that had experience working with U14 plus elite teams in various platforms. But my start in my coaching career was with U5 programming, and that is somewhere deep in my heart, my very favorite place to be. So U5 to about U7 programming here in Northern Virginia, where I grew up playing soccer. I am also an alum of the program where I'm currently serving, so this is a very nice homecoming for me, and I am looking forward to sharing more about the program in today's call. Cass.
Thank you. Oh, I'm just like starstruck, just happy to be here, like in the presence of all of you. I'm Cassidy Gabriel. I use she, her pronouns. I am a data and operations associate at the U.S. Soccer Foundation. And my coaching journey started much more recently. So again, I'm very starstruck and just honored to be here. I started coaching about 5 years ago while I was in college. So I went to Columbia University and I played club soccer there, and then transitioned over to coaching the team. And at the same time was coaching U12s with South Bronx United. A lot of that got disrupted by COVID. So my coaching journey has had a lot of ups and downs, despite starting kind of the pathway, what I thought was early. It definitely has had some setbacks, but I'm excited to kind of be in the process of getting back to starting to work with the U9 team. Love working with like younger girls, especially, and just being able to be a mentor in that space. But also really liked working, with like college level peers when I had the opportunity to do that. So excited to be here and learn from all three of you. And I will, I guess, take us to question one. Does that sound good, Caitlin?
Okay. Sounds great.
I'm excited. Okay. So, as we just reviewed, you've all played the game at a high level. When you think about the most influential coaches in your own playing experience, what type of characteristics do they have? And what do you try to pull through from them in your own coaching identity?
I actually got really excited when I saw this question because it's that beautiful invitation to reflection. And I think what I kind of landed on was my realization of my earliest coach really was my mom. And I was terrible at playing for my mom, but I loved working for my mom. So that U5 role that I had was a really great opportunity for modeling in terms of, at the end of it, I view the role that I would like to bring about in my coaching as inviting. So that's inviting joy, inviting solutions, inviting autonomy and ownership. I think that as I kind of use that lens and looking through the coaches that have had a really long impact on my life, the ones that I still call when I'm stressed out in whatever my current situation is in soccer or in life otherwise, it's the coaches that really made sure that I felt very seen and I felt very valued, and were actively investing in my growth. And so, both in the roles that I choose now, as well as the way I would like players to experience their time when being supported by my coaching, is very much through that lens of an invitation, being seen, and that they feel a deep investment.
Thanks, Kaylee. Do you want to take it away, Kaylee?
Yeah, I'm gonna jump. Kaylee, that was so wonderfully said, and you made the comment about being seen, and I think similarly when I had the opportunity to reflect, that rose to the top in sort of the term of consistency for me, not just like consistency, and that coach was there all the time, like. I knew I was going to get the same person every day. They were going to be present, but also just like the version of that person was very, very welcoming for my full version of self. Like not just Caitlin, the soccer player, but like Caitlin, the academic school nerd, and like Caitlin, the person who also liked to do outdoor activities, right? And so there was this like intersection of being able to feel like I was pushed and grow in the soccer space, which I incredibly loved. And also like there could be other parts of me present, and that was like honored and invited, right, by that coach. And so like just that consistency of welcoming like the full individual into the space was really important, and something that I've tried to do in my own coaching work. You know, I've been lucky to coach at the club level, the U5s. I think the U5s are the most challenging and the most rewarding. Also at the college level, at Division I and Division III, and in all those spaces, like that theme of just inviting that full person into the space has been so important, regardless of the competitive level. So, consistency has been a big one for me.
I think I'll have some through threads with both of you. When I was thinking about this, I thought of it in two ways. One, I wanted to play at a very high level, so I wanted to seek out coaches that were going to push me as a player to become better day after day and certainly over the season. But with that, ensuring, kind of like what y'all were saying, that that they are there for my best interest and my best interest as a team member. And so I have been blessed to have a lot of great coaches in my life, but I did have a few that didn't go about it in the right way. And that can be damaging. So, yeah, I think it's just those two things make me better as a player on the skill side, but also show that you're there for my growth as a authentic human as well.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Sarah, and for pulling all those pieces together. And for those of you listening, you might be like, this is great. Like, we're learning a lot about coaching. What does this have to do with their experiences with coach mentor training? And I think we wanted to start here because coach mentor training is really focused on helping coaches have other ways to frame and develop skill sets and creating that trusting relationship between the coach and the player in the team environment. And so what we think about in coach mentor training is how do we take these components of relationship development, positive relationship development between an adult coach or an older youth coach and a player, and how do we map them across the season in a way that really flows like with the work that you do in your sports setting and as a coach. And so all of these different aspects of high quality coaches that Kaylee and Sarah and I were speaking about, right, are central to this idea of what it means to be a coach mentor. And so when we talk about coaching at the U.S.Soccer Foundation, we really intentionally connect the idea of mentor and coach because we believe strongly that the coach is that trusting adult on site. And whether they see it or not, those young people see them, right, as that person they can go to, whether it's about, how to get better at passing with their left foot or scoring a goal, or maybe they had something going on at school that day and they need, someone to talk to, or maybe there's something going at home and they need a connection to a resource. And so how do we better prepare coaches to wear sort of both of those hats and to be able to navigate, particularly when we're working with young people from a diversity of communities, how are we better prepared to invite their full selves in and invite those conversations and questions and then connect them to resources if and when we can. And so the training's really focused on, let's spend some time on the relationship development component within the framework of what we typically think of as coaching, and let's front and center that for this part of the training. So what I want to do is pass it back to Cassidy and Kaylee and Sarah. You've all taken or been a part of coach mentor training in some form or fashion. Sarah, you've clearly been working with this content for a very long time in its development. What have you found valuable from this training to pull forward into your own coaching work? If there's anyone can go as they go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, man, I was just breathing, Caitlin. But I think, so as I just set it up, as a player, like I wanted a coach that was going to improve my skill set, but also understand I'm a person and a person on a team. And so I went into the coaching space in a variety of, it wasn't just the first time, but every new coaching space I went into, I knew that I knew the game to a certain extent, right? I knew how to talk about the game and how to look at what players' strengths are or their areas for improvement. But I wanted some more intentionality and framework around how to create those connections, how to build those relationships, and how to create the right culture and space for the team and the players, individual players, to be able to improve as players and grow as humans. And so in the design of this training, in this work, just thinking about how to do that and how to organize it in an intentional way, in a practical way. As coaches, you're getting out on the field, you don't have a ton of time. And so how can you do this in a practical manner? And so the training itself is really set up to try and do just that, and also help build a common language. So if you are, I think Grace was even saying, like, connecting with your coach peers on what's going on, that sort of thing. You can talk about the tactics and techniques and stuff, but you can also talk about, well, at this time in the season, Julia needs this, but might be facing this, and Jedi might be facing that, right? And so like having a language and framework to talk about it with your coaching peers and coaching staff as well.
Yeah, I can go next, and I think I'm thinking about the practical part that you were saying, Sarah, and really just like turning this. I think that coach mentor training really is like a lot of other coach training, really trying to teach how to value and center the like bidirectionality of the relationship between the coach and the player. And that's huge and requires training just as much as the tactical piece, the technical piece, in the same way that we're trying to support players in other ways. So that's been extremely valuable to me. Right now, I'm working on my D license with the Federation, and that pathway definitely focuses on, again, like how to develop players in a myriad number of ways. But I think where coach mentor training has been extremely supportive to me is, how can I think about players within their community context? How can I think about mentoring players and learning how to mentor players as like a critical part of that coach development? And how can I learn also from the players that I'm coaching as a coach? Like that's also enhancing what I'm learning and my value to my players. So I think that those are just like enormous strengths of the program.
You're probably seeing me like writing furiously over here because I'm enjoying and soaking it up as much as the next person. But I have to share, like, to the beautiful people that created this program, like, shout out to you guys. As I was kind of like reviewing and prepping, because I think I'm one on this call who's I've participated in the training and not someone who helped formulate it. And what I liken it to is, I'll actually share, Sarah, that as I was reviewing, my significant other was on the phone with me and he was overhearing the training. He's also a coach. And he stopped and he goes, "You know the people who made this? This is really good." I said, "I know." So I think what I would liken it to is, my reminder coming out of it was, I would want to refresh this for myself once per year. It kind of reminds me of, in terms of its length and its the scope of the kind of reminders and the way that you're kind of approaching your players, as Cassidy mention, and being aware of some of the sliding scales of those relationships and how we want to navigate these things. While some of those things might feel familiar, it's kind of like CPR training. Like, you need the refresher. You're going to go back and be sure that it's kind of front of mind as you approach a new task. So whether that's something where I'm stepping into a new group like I am right now, or just kind of on that annual basis, I felt a lot of the reminders were bringing to mind current situations or previous situations, that just kind of pulled those relationships back to front of mind. So it's beautiful training, and I am looking forward to bringing it back into my work, particularly right now, starting with a new group.
It's fantastic. Thank you, Kaylee. Sarah, you're up.
Thank you, Caitlin. I just had a flashback of a sixth grade boy team that I coached before having frameworks and access to beautiful training such as this one. And the first day, they were just basically climbing trees and chasing each other around with sticks. And by the end of the season, we lost in the finals, but we got to the finals, and we talent-wise should have even been there. And it was just like a season and a moment of like, if you really do this in the right way, great things can happen. And so anyway, long segue into the next question. As you think about the different levels of training and coaching, which a lot is represented here: grassroots, competitive club, college, pros, curious how you all think that this type of training or pieces of this training might be effective in each of those environments. I think we have heard, Kaylee, thank you so much. That was a beautiful compliment. You can let Tanya Vogel know that she has the tiniest piece in this. I'm going to leave it at that because I have my own thoughts, but I'm going to just leave the question as a question. Caitlin, you're up first.
Yeah, I'll try to be brief. I know we've got about 5 minutes, so want to make sure everyone has a chance to say a piece or two and give a minute for questions. But one part of the training really talks about, how do we create this wonderful, inclusive environment, positive culture, and then in moments when it gets bumped up against, which it ultimately will, right? Like that's the whole point. Like, how do we hold young people accountable, but in ways that call them back in? And so we talk about addressing difficult moments and behaviors with empathy. And we have a nice acronym called CATCH for a process to work through that. And I think we present it very cleanly, but it's, the it's messy, right? It's both an art and a science. And as I've coached most recently, shout out Kaylee, at my old high school where most of the kids are kids I graduated with, so feeling pretty old. I've used it there in pieces. I've used it in working with U8s. I used it in working with older, U8 teens, and so there's been ways to pull some of those ideas, right? And obviously, you're working with different developmental ages, and so how you interact with them and have that conversation about what's happening changes. But the concept, right, has been really helpful to think about, okay, how do I meet this moment with, hey, that's not okay here, like what's going on, figure out what the young person needs, right? And then get to a place where we can address what happened and have a plan for the future in a way that is productive, right? And that reestablishes the culture, is a learning moment, but also holds the young person accountable in a way that says, hey, you still really belong here. So that piece has been super valuable for me.
I would just say it's, Sarah, you used the word early on about intentionality. And I think that's the thing that comes to top of mind for me. I think it's really easy, particularly in collegiate settings, to just kind of roll into things and let you do competence is a part of care. So I do think that side of things is very important, but at the same time, like being very cognizant about how we're going to set those relationships up early, so that people can feel that foundation as we move forward.
Oh wow, now I'm rethinking like everything I was going to say because I was like accountability, intentionality. I'm like writing my own notes. I think like having juggled college, I guess, aged players and U12s at the same time, just something that would have really strengthened my ability to do that at the time that I think that you can get through this training is the understanding of community and like helping. I don't know, something that was really helpful to me as a player, at least, was when my coaches could help me build trust in myself. And I think that really is that like mentorship piece and honoring the connection between the coach and player. And so I think that those are two things that go across all levels of playing, all levels of coaching that you really get out of this training.
Love that, and wish we could spend another hour or two with each other, but I think interrupt and to save 2 whole minutes for questions. We don't certainly claim that like this is the only training you can take for finding practical solutions and intentionality around, I guess, the less X's and O's side of the game. But I can tell you, I believe in it deeply. And I think hopefully you've kind of felt from each of us the need and productivity in taking something like this, and my biased opinion, this to set you on your way wherever you are on your path of coaching. Caitlin, do we have any questions?
I don't see any questions, but it also could be my inability to navigate Remo. So let me.
There's one that came through. Sorry, I'm going to interject here. There's one that came through from Keith asking briefly, after a long day of taking on the world, how do you recharge to keep on going?
That's a phenomenal question. And I think probably different for everyone. I would say maybe how it intersects with what we're talking about here for me is just having, Kaylee named intentionality and Sarah named intentionality, like having thought through some of these interactions that end up being kind of the more important components of what happens when I'm on a field with a group. Like obviously the technical and tactical pieces are important and we plan those out, but like also playing out for these pieces because they're so important for team dynamics, allows me to then be in a space to take time off to recharge, to like give my brain a break, as opposed to being like maybe caught off guard on many of these moments and having to spend time on the back end processing. So I think being able to like front load more of the how and what am I going to do in these moments that we know are going to happen, allows me more brain space like later, right, to keep the tank a little fuller. I don't know if anyone else has thought.
I'll just build on that just from a personal angle. Like I have often made the mistake and continue to make the mistake of just driving myself into the ground for whatever the coach setting or leadership setting is. But I think I've become I've had a little bit of growth in recognizing when I'm off and need some self-care. Like, oh, Sarah, you're agitated. How do you what will help you refill your tank, as Caitlin was saying. So you need to do that to show up as a better version of yourself for your team. And for me, that also is like, there's so many different styles of coaching. Mine is more of an introverted version. And it took me a minute to realize that too. But coaching is a lot of extroverted, interpersonal connectivity. And so with that, finding what helps you personally fill your tank and ensuring that you have moments for that, especially, post-pandemic time where we are as a collective trying to figure out how to navigate everything still.
So I think we're at time. But I just wanted to say in the chat, there are links to the Coach Mentor Training landing page for the U.S.Soccer Foundation. Please feel free to go there and take a look at the program overall. There's also a link to like request a free in-person training. There we have some funding to underwrite some additional deliveries potentially. And so depending on the population you work with, we can have a conversation in addition to the opportunity that Grace and Pep spoke about earlier. Lastly, I'll say the trainings deliver intentionally in multiple formats so that it's accessible. The version that Kaylee most recently took is accessible via our website to anyone at any time. You can log in and register and take it. Obviously, in-person interactions are extremely fruitful, and so we try to do that whenever possible. And then we can do this over Zoom or Remo if that's your preferred platform as well. So lots of possibilities, but we hope we have a chance to connect with you and have a conversation.